levels of consciousness. Many people are awakening to seek a greater truth, a different truth than what they've been living. And we're going to discuss that today. We're going to discuss the levels of consciousness we can explore as we have earth incarnations, as we live out our earthly lives. We have discussed this on the show before on ATP Media with Michael Tamura, the beautiful, masterful teacher, Michael Tamura. And we're going to talk about what he said in the Inner Sanctum. But we're also going to talk about people seeking and what they're seeking and what they're looking for. Anyway, it's going to be a great show. Stay tuned. Let me find the intro. Here we go. Stay tuned. Welcome to Elevate, the awareness shift, waking the quantum self. I'm Karen Swain, your host, and you're listening on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 FM, syndicated radio all over the world. G'day. Welcome to another show, Elevating Consciousness with myself, Karen Swain. Oh, things falling apart here. And the gorgeous Kristen Miss Bash. Hello, Kristen.
Hello.
We've had some tech issues. I couldn't get it to populate on Facebook. I just couldn't get it happening on Facebook today. And I was trying to post the other platforms, YouTube and stuff, on the Facebook page. So I don't know if we haven't even got an audience yet, because I know a lot of people joined from Facebook. I didn't really advertise this show.
It shows a little eye with the number 2 next to it. Are we the 2?
The eye with the 2 is 2 people have tuned in. Hello to those 2 people who have tuned in.
But it's being recorded, so people can watch it later. So
yeah, I was trying to live stream on Instagram. We've had tech issues. Kristen's had tech issues. I've had tech issues. It's a day for it. So I was trying to live stream on Instagram today for the first time, and then my camera wouldn't work. And so I thought, oh, maybe it's the Instagram settings. Let me take it off. And camera still didn't work. So I had to reboot the computer. You know how it goes. And then Kristen came on. We couldn't hear her. It's been fun this morning. It's been a lovely time. But yeah, so Kristen's just been at a conscious expo where a whole lot of consciousness teachers get out there and, spruik their teachings, spruik their products and their teachings and their wisdom. And it's one of the biggest ones in America, or maybe even in the world, isn't it? That one that how many people attend? Thousands?
Thousands. I was told that the venue, the hotel that it was hosting it, capped the ticket sales at 20,000. They sold 20,000 tickets for a Friday, Saturday, and most of Sunday conference. And then there were paid workshops all day Monday. So that's huge. Wow. So I think it is the biggest consciousness expo or conference in America. I don't know about other ones that go on in the world. I have no idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would not be surprised if it's the biggest in America. Everybody was there. Everybody.
Wow.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Me, I was there.
You were there. I would have loved to be there. And there's another one coming up, the New Life Expo. Other names.
Yeah, what's it called? It's called the New Living Expo, and that's why I was at the conference, because Neil Gore's platform, Portal to Ascension, has taken on the New Living Expo, purchased the franchise of a conference similar to this that's gone on for more than 20 years in Northern California. The Conscious Life Expo was in LA, which is in Southern California. And so I was at the Portal to Ascension booth promoting Portal to Ascension, as well as promoting the New Living Expo, which is just going to cap it, So we were all saying, hey, are you having fun at this book? So if you like this expo, you're going to like this in 2 months. But it's nowhere near as large. This one we're expecting at least 3,000 attendees this year. We have over 125 vendors. I think there were 250 to 300 vendors at the Conscious Life Expo that I just came home from.
Yeah, amazing. Huge. Amazing. I was supposed to talk at the
New Living Expo
one. Yeah, New Living Expo. But, getting out to the States our dollar is so low that you just double it. You know, anything you pay,
Yeah.
a couple of thousand, it's like 4,000. Then accommodation, another 1,000, it's like another 2,000. So you just double it. And Neil said he can't guarantee me an audience. And I'm like, so if I pay, you know, $5,000 to get over there today, I'll and speak to 30 people. Maybe that's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
such a great investment.
Yeah. Well, and Portal to Ascension is breathing such new life into this already existing expo, but that, you know, just it's time to take it into this next wave of not just healthy consciousness living products. It's more about really
Expansion
ascension.
of awareness. Yeah.
100%
Just say,
expansion of awareness.
when I go to things like that, we have the Mind, Body, Spirit, which is a big conscious life. It's really a shop, basically. They do have speakers and singers and a couple of workshops. It's been going for years. God, when I was in my 20s, I went to it. It looks a little bit like a circus, and I feel like it does. I feel like, you know, this genre that we're in, people looking in from the outside, look at all the people doing all their things, selling all their stuff, you know, trying to make a buck from being conscious and teaching people and selling products. It just can look a bit like a circus, I think. But at the same time, it's so exciting to see so many people engaged and people offering expos and putting blood, sweat, and tears, like you and Neil and anybody else that puts on expos, putting blood, sweat, and tears into it for usually unpaid blood, sweat, and tears to be able to showcase all the new world teachers that are on the planet and what they've got to say and what they've got to offer.
Mm-hmm.
I said to Kristen, what do you want to talk about on Elevate? I said, I wouldn't mind talking about cults, but I scrapped that idea. But the idea of a cult, which a lot of people in the mainstream looking into conscious living see, you know, is that there is one supreme leader and you got to do what the supreme leader says. Like, I am your guru, I am the boss. That's really the idea of a cult where people can go wrong because there is a supreme leader. But what a conscious life does is it says you are your supreme, like look within for your answers. And then when you expo all these teachers, they've all got something to do. They're channeling mantises, they're, you know, activating crystals, they're activating DNA, they're doing all this fabulous stuff, talking to aliens and, you know, Merkabahs and chakras and dimensions and
keep going, aliens and
you know, but at the same time, when you're showcasing all this different variety, all these different teachers talking about, there's no chance of being led by some supreme guru who you're now beholden to.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, this is what religion has done with God and Jesus and the Bible, you know, like unless you're doing what Jesus says or the Bible. So in many ways, religions have become cults. But in the conscious new age, people hate that new age genre, there is just so much diversity and variety that people can play with and explore who we are as conscious living spiritual beings on this planet and the awareness levels of awareness and levels of consciousness. And that's what I love about this industry, even though it does look like a circus when you go.
Yeah, and I will echo everything that you just said. I saw it was circus, but in a beautiful way. I mean, you walk into, I would be so sad if I had booked time at that hotel, not knowing that conference was going on. And that was my place to stay, because you walk into the lobby and they had a full stage set up and it was consciousness music and meditations the entire time, just in the lobby of the whole hotel. So you got that whether you had a ticket or not. And then there is no section of that hotel, except for the guest rooms, where it was hallways, small meeting rooms, large ballrooms, that wasn't full of this conference with vendors at every corner. And so there was something, like you said, for everyone. Something for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
something to explore.
From pine resin to for your health and also for the expansion of your consciousness, to card readings, to, you know, harmonics that you can purchase theirs or sit down in their booth for a harmonic session to just get through the day or elevate, you know, I mean, it was just everything. It was so beautiful.
It's fun and exciting. Look, you know, Earth experience what we can explore on Earth Experience, what I see the majority of the population doing is when they want to have fun, it's all about drinking, getting drunk, and eating. That is like the predominant Earth Experience. So as far as Earth experiences go, to explore all of these different ideologies and genres and things, it just makes it all much more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a young youthful seeker, my wake-up call was the death of my mum, as you know, Kristen, and many people have heard my story know. She kept coming to me telling me she wasn't dead in my dreams. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, did you do an Elvis? Did you fake your death? I used to think. And you've gone to live in another country and you've abandoned me. This is what I thought in my level of consciousness at the time as a teenager, when I'm dreaming about mum not being dead, and she kept telling me she wasn't dead. But my question was, she died at 50 of cancer. And so I watched her suffer for about 4 or 5 years in pain, in emotional pain. Like, more before the sickness, there was the emotional pain. There was like the mum and dad trying to kill each other, and, you know, beatings and all sorts of horrendous things. And then there was the physical pain, and then there was the death. So my question was, how do I not live that? How do I not get sick? You're like, what's the meaning to life? And I have to say, very early on, I found spiritual teachers like Petria King, who's an Australian, Louise Hay, Ian Gawler, another Australian, people that had had cancer and healed themselves, because this was my question, how do we heal ourselves? And they had meditated, like they had shut themselves away from life and gone inward. And so for me, that was the answer to everything. I still think it's the answer to everything. Go in and touch your soul, find your wisdom, find your higher self, find the frequency within, go within, stop looking outside yourself. But in saying that, there's so much more we can explore. But really, for me, that was always the answer. It doesn't mean that for 25 years I haven't been exploring other New World teachers with a lot of things to say. And like these expos, have a lot of people with a lot of things to say. So we're going to look, go on.
Yeah, go ahead. We're going to look at, go ahead. I was stopping.
Levels of consciousness, but yeah, go on.
Well, I was just going to say, like, every single solitary human being on this planet is an individual. So there has to be nearly that many ways to connect and go inward. So the way that you connect and go inward may be different than what resonates with me to connect and go inward, because, we're all so different. And in fact, when I was on this drive, because I drove to this from Salt Lake City down to Los Angeles. And so it's a 9-hour drive. I stopped in Vegas overnight and spent the night at my brother's house, and, drove the last half of it the next day. But on that drive, I had this total, download or code of information that came in, that there are so many different genres of this, if you will, because we're all so individual, and it's possibly connected to my origin. So we all come from source, but maybe I am, because I don't know this for myself, maybe I'm Pleiadian or Arcturian, or I came from someplace else. So whatever method works best for that type of person.
I'm getting a yes when you said Pleiadian. Yes. I got a little yes, and when you said Arcturian, I got a bigger yes.
Yeah, but whatever it is that I'm connected to, or I'm Lemurian, or whatever my spiritual ancestral DNA is, that's why there's so many facets. But I've become so skeptical of anything that says you have to use my process to get it, because then I'm always having to go through somebody else. I can understand that maybe Reiki is something that works very well for me because of the type of way that I do to connect to myself. Maybe, much better than another form, another modality. But yeah, I'm glad you're getting a confirmation. Tell me more what they're saying. That's my favorite part, what you get.
I've actually thought about this. I was thinking about you recently, and I was asking the mob about you.
Oh,
we'll talk about that another show. I want to get into the levels of consciousness. I'm still trying to find, still not populating on Facebook. Oh, well, sorry, Facebook, because it was supposed to be streaming on the UFO Paranormal Radio Network and United Public Radio Network page on Facebook. It did say it was populating there, but no, can't find it. Yeah, levels of consciousness, awareness. So I posted on my Facebook page, I played on the show last week, my conversation last year with Grant Cameron. Just love Grant. And Grant talks at a million miles an hour, and he just, delivers so many pearls, but he talks so fast and he just talks so much that they can kind of just get lost in the mix. But I picked up one of his pearls. Let me see. I posted it on my Facebook page. God does not create the heavens and the earth. God creates the sparks of consciousness, and consciousness creates the heavens and the earth. That was one of Grant's pearls amongst the many, many pearls. And this is something I've discussed with the mob, and I've talked about many times on the show. When people say, remember the guy, we've talked about this, who created the desert, he reinvigorated the desert in Western Australia, and he would see where spirits were and he would move them on and stuff like that. He'd use dowsing rods and that. So he always said he worked with God. And I said to him, you're working with the elemental spirits. And he's like, no, I work with God. And so really, when we get into the levels of consciousness, we discussed this in the Inner Sanctum with Michael Tamora, and I'm just going to reiterate what he said. He talked about it like a clock face. He says, when we come into the earth experience and we come in for the full immersion of what it is to feel the illusion of our separation to God, and we start at the beginning. Not everyone chooses this beginning, but many souls who incarnate on earth, from that 12 o'clock down to 3 o'clock, that first quadrant on the clock, you're coming in and you think that you are the I am. Who am I is solely the body. I am the body. I need to feed the body. I need to adorn the body. I need to give the body food and rest and play and alcohol and sex, and your whole identity is with the body, he was saying. And that is the view, the level of consciousness, which is quite an atheistic view. You don't look outside yourself in your ego self for anything. You're not seeking. And as you move on that first quadrant, you start asking questions when life throws you challenges to wake you up, and you start seeking. And then in the next quadrant, from 3 o'clock down to 6 o'clock, is where people start asking questions. If I'm not just my body and my me ego, what am I? Let me look at God. And they come into religion, and they get caught up with all that religion has to offer. And again, they're seeking a authority outside themselves, called God or Jesus or Buddha or Krishna or whatever deity or God that is going to give them the meaning to life and the rules to life. And that's when you first start seeking. And towards that next end of that, I'm really abbreviating this. If you want to go back and listen, I'll post the link to Michael talking about this. You start going down to 6 o'clock. And he said at 6 o'clock is where you start really awakening, and you start asking questions. And, this is what happened to you growing up in a religion
100%.
And absorbing all the information that was coming from that religion, and then starting to question it. And how can that be? And asking questions. And he said it's around that 6 o'clock mark where that happens. And so as he was talking to us in the Inner Sanctum, that next quadrant, that third quadrant from 6 to 9 on the clock face, as the analogy he gave, is where the spiritual seekers are. So they've come out of religion, they've started to question religion, and they've started to seek. And I think that, these expos that we're talking about, and he said that everyone that was on the call that day and people that listened to the show are in that third camp, that seeking. And so when I asked you about the expo, how was it? What did you find there? What stood out? And you said to me, the different levels that people are looking for. Do you want to talk about what you experienced there? Like, what were people asking? What were their questions? What were they seeking?
100%. So for sure, the assumption is that there's people there, of course, of all levels. I just kind of had this awakening, and I don't even know, like a gentleman came up to me and he says, what is ascension? And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, you don't know what ascension is and you're at this conference? What?
Yeah,
of course, and not in a judgmental way, but like, okay, how do I make this in just, regular non-conscious life expo terms? And so you have that, as well as a gentleman that stopped by the booth, and he was attracted by the video that I was playing or something. And then he and I got to talking, and he is well versed in astrology. Like, boom. I mean, he talked about it for a long time. And he's like, and then you have to have your astrologer look at this. And he was giving me terms, and I'm well versed. He talked for a long time about that. And then the next day at the conference, just walking around myself, I saw him sitting down and getting a reading by somebody that was channeling from, a different being, like the mantis or something like that. He wasn't just relying on his knowledge of astrology, which he was well versed in. And he even went into that guy, because we talked for a few minutes. It was towards the end of the night and it wasn't very busy. And he was enamored with the telepathy tapes, and he couldn't wait till we all are going to get there at this level of the kids and the telepathy tapes.
Yeah.
And we need those teachers and and yet he still went for a reading. Right. So there's another level. And then of course there's all of the people that, are teaching, and some of them had booths, and then they had a little speaking spot in a small room. So they're speaking for the first, second, or fifth time. And then there were people that I have seen speak many times, JJ and Desiree Hertak, that have written those books of Enoch and everything on panels and speaking engagements. And then even Dale Inca was there, and channeling Bashar, and he had a stage platform, and then he had a workshop later. So you had all levels and where everybody's at. And the people that want to go see Bashar, are they really going to ask questions, or they've been following Bashar, and should they know what they're going to ask Bashar? So it's so exciting to see all these different levels. But it gets, like you, I get so curious. Like, I want to ask everybody, why are you here?
Why are you here? It was interesting what Michael was saying, because I was re-listening to him last night. And for people listening to this or watching this, we've got a small audience today. As I said, I couldn't populate some of the platforms. Have a look at Michael. He does talk a lot and he laughs a lot, and you've got to get through the babbling. But the babbling is for a reason. There's a design. There's a divine choreography in the way he communicates. And divine choreography is a word I got from him in one of our sessions. But he was talking about that third quadrant, that where you start asking questions. You don't rely on your religion or your society or life to give you all the answers. You start seeking. And he was talking about that's where you have the dark night of the soul in that third quadrant. You start to question everything. You start to question yourself, the reason for being. And a lot of people fall into that dark night of the soul in that third quadrant. And, because it's a journey through the quadrants. And when you sort of hit rock bottom, that's when you start, because you're seeking the answers still from outside yourself. So the books and the podcasts and the crystal, and, even I've got on my, on the thing I made for the show, I was playing, like I've got the mushrooms in the background there. A lot of people are having their spiritual awakening. You were saying different levels of meditation. A lot of people's meditation is some sort of psychedelic ingestion substance, like an ayahuasca or mushrooms or something, to quicken their awakening process. Because what that does is the psychedelic, like LSDs and the psychedelic component of these substances, is they unblock the blockers on the brain receptors that block out a lot of information that's not necessary for us to be human. And so this is what psychic ability does as well. You unblock the blockers, receptor sites, and you become more aware of different dimensions of who you are as a multidimensional being. Like you become aware really quickly when you have these experiences, which you can do in meditation as well. You can go within and meditate and then like naturally unblock the blocker sites and become aware of who you are as a conscious being, as a spiritual being, as energy, as frequency, as vibration, and contact your guides and contact your soul and, move into different dimensions and move out of the body and astral travel. And there's all sorts of things we can do. And it all comes down to going within and, using our own energy field. But this is where you have your dark night of the soul. And that dark night of the soul is when you don't find the answers outside yourself, no matter how much you explore. and it's forcing you to go within. And as I say, a lot of people are doing that through these psychedelic substances. They're going within, but those psychedelic substances are temporary. They give you an experience, and then when they wear off, bang, you're back. You're back to the same level of consciousness you entered, although much more aware of who you are. And then it's up to you to practice it. So he was saying, and it's so true too, that we seek the information, we seek the experiences, we seek the understanding, and we understand it on an intellectual level.
Right.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. When I read the book's Conversation with God, that's my truth. Like, this is my truth. But I didn't live that truth. I'm still fighting with my husband. I'm still, stressing over money. I'm still feeling unsupported and struggling to survive in life. I'm in my late 20s, early 30s. I'm still stressing about life, but I'm understanding that this is completely my truth. So that next level of awakening or seeking of consciousness is applying the wisdom to your life, like applying it, not just understanding it. And this is what a lot of the population are doing, who are listening to podcasts, going to conferences. They're absolutely, I see in the comments, not today, no one's commented today, comment if you're listening. I see in the comments so many people agreeing with everything we say on these shows, Elevate and on ATP. And then when I ask them questions, they're like, I'm in depression, I'm suffering, I can't get over this, I'm still in grief. So they absolutely understand the wisdom, but they're not applying it to their life. So that sort of other level of consciousness towards the end, moving up towards the 9 o'clock on the clock face analogy that Michael gave us, is when you start to apply the information that you know is your truth.
That makes sense.
And I feel like I'm talking to those people. A lot of teachers are speaking to the seekers who are curious, who are asking questions. But I feel my job is to speak to the people who've had enough information to really want to apply the wisdom to their life. So we spoke about how to apply that with Michael. And then that fourth quadrant from 9 o'clock back to 12 are like you've got it. You understand you're the creator of your reality. You understand the matrix that you're engaged in, but you understand it on a visceral level. And there are different levels in that fourth quadrant of how you're applying it and how you're understanding it and how you're knowing it as your life lived. That this is a game. This is Earth School. This is a place where you're creating a reality, you're co-creating with other people, and that everything you're living is a product of your own creation. You no longer play the victim to circumstance, the victim to the weather or the political environment or the disease or whatever is happening. You understand you are a conscious creator participating in it, and you're doing it from an awareness that you wanted to be here and you wanted to learn something from it. And then as you move through that fourth quadrant, you're totally out of the game, as Michael probably was. He was so sick and he suffered so much, but he wasn't upset or depressed about it. He still kept laughing. He still kept teaching. Like, you're totally out of the game as this being me and my life and my suffering. And you realize that you're participating as a co-creator for a reason. A lot of Michael's life traumas were created by him consciously as an ego human personality and a soul to be a vehicle through which to teach others. So we spoke about how can you be having a heart attack? He got out of his car on one of his near-death experiences and he's fallen on a piece of grass and he was laughing because there was all dog poo and dog wee on the grass and he's having a heart attack on this grass and he was laughing about, oh, the grass smells like dog wee. And as he's having a heart attack, and then someone's called the ambulance. So he's like, well, the health is sorted. Now let's go within and find out what's happening. Like, what's happening in this experience? What is it that haven't quite learnt yet? What am I refining from having yet another heart attack and near-death experience? And I'm like, how do you do that in the middle of the drama? Like, why aren't you just all wrapped up in the drama? How are you still questioning, how am I creating it? What's the purpose? What's the reason? What is my soul getting from this as I'm dying on the grass smelling dog poo? And, that's that level of awareness where you understand you've created all of it. And he was saying that when you're at that level of awareness, everything is amusing. Like, everything is amusing. Everything's hilarious. People get murdered and shot and gunned down and the whole world's up in you know, a lot of people in my community, in this conscious community here, are all up in arms about the genocide happening in Gaza and Israel, and the fight between the two sides, and how many people are dead and how many people died and how many people are suffering. But from that level of awareness, just like Mum said when she died when I was 16, there's no death. You just exit the movie. You exit the matrix.
Yeah.
It's not your true reality. It's just an experience your soul is choosing. And so there ceases to be suffering over what we suffer about in that fourth quadrant, which not a lot of people, I have to say, are at. Not a lot of people are at. But yeah, so there are the levels of consciousness. And as we go to these expos and watch podcasts, a lot of people are coming out of that second level from religion. There are some people, okay, so they're just reminding me, as the acceleration, which we spoke about, as the acceleration of energy expands on our planet, people are moving, whether they're here for the first time, let's say star seeds, or they've not led very many incarnations on Earth, are moving from unconscious to conscious or seeking very quickly. Like, they're not taking lifetimes.
Right.
They're not taking lifetimes as a agnostic, or he was saying in the first quadrant, there's the atheists and then the agnostics, which is, I'm not completely, no, there's no God, there's nothing outside of me and my body and my wants and desires. There might be something, you know, the agnostic. But he was saying the agnostic also exists in the third quadrant, where you have the dark night of the soul and you start to question everything, and you're just in the I don't know. But you're not rejecting everything. You're just in the I don't know what the hell's going on. Like, what's happening here? And yeah, so people are moving out of that, believing that life and society as it presents to us, you know, grow up, get an education, get a job, make money, have a family, be successful, be rich, be beautiful, all that life presents to us is what life is supposed to be about. They start to question that, and they move from it's all about me and my wants and my needs and my desires, to seeking. They might just rush through that second quadrant and reject religion. Kind of, that's what I did. Like, I looked at it, I'm like, I went to a convent. Nah, not having any of that.
Yeah. I get a little jealous of people like you. I was 45 before I left my church, so.
Well, there's nothing wrong with the church.
No,
it's a
there's
place
not.
to play, but a lot of people, when they're incarnating on Earth, will spend lifetimes and lifetimes in that second quadrant.
Yeah.
And I've done that, you know, exploring life as a man, as a monk, as a nun, as a Buddhist, you know, in India as a scrawny. I've seen myself as this, well, skinny. I was a man, really skinny little student. Sri Yukteswar was my guru, sitting cross-legged in, you know, half naked, cross-legged on a dirt floor, listening to him talk. Yeah, so I've spent many lifetimes in that second quadrant, exploring spirituality through the different religions. And where we are now and where the world is emerging is into that third quadrant, where there's seekers. You start to question how it's been presented to us through religion, and what else, what more, what's next, what else, and awareness opens. And like, oh my gosh, I'm not just a spiritual being having a physical life experience, an earth life experience. I'm actually multidimensional. I've actually had lives on other planets. I've had lives as other experiences, trees and planets and streams. And some people have seen themselves as, you know, sponges, like sponges on different planets. Like, it's amazing what you can see. And it's like, and you start to see the infiniteness and the expandedness of consciousness and what's possible and what you can play with. But doing the inner work and understanding you're the creator of all of it is really where it's at, to move into that fourth quadrant of seeing it all as the Leela, the dance of life, the game. And that is an experience that's not only the Earth experience. That's what a lot of other planetary dimensional experiences are also exploring, moving out of 3 into 4. Like, they understand they're Palladian or ET or grey or whatever flavor they are, but understanding that full connection to being conscious creators, still they're exploring that. And yeah, it's fun. Levels of consciousness.
Yeah. So what one of the things I'm picking up from what you're saying, tell me if I'm correct, is, if we're looking at it on a clock face and we're in those quadrants, what you were getting from your guides too is that humanity as a whole is more, and in that third, almost fourth quadrant, more of us are there than in times in the past, if we look at it literally.
Is more in the second quadrant, where religion, like when the Pope comes out, look at the millions of people across the planet that come out and hold their crosses and bow down to the Pope or the Mother Marys, or you go to India and they have their spiritual festivals and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people come out and worship their deities and God. So that's where humanity is at large. But we're moving into the third, where they're starting to question that. Mm-hmm. A lot of people will never question that, and they will die feeling like their religion is the only religion. I went through this with my ex-husband. I've spoken about this. He woke up to spirituality through food because he grew up in a family that didn't believe in anything. They were both adopted, and he had a sister on the spectrum who was quite mentally challenged. And so his parents had these two adopted children, were very busy with her, and they didn't have time to think about any of this stuff. Then he went to some Hare Krishna festival and they fed him, and he's like, "Wow, this food's great." So he became a Krishna and absolutely staunch Krishna. And I gave him the book Conversation with God to read. And in the book, Neil says, channeling God, what he calls God, all religion is based on fear. A bold statement. All religion is based on fear. And my ex-husband read it and he's like, I agree with that, except for my religion, right? This is where everyone goes. I absolutely agree with that. I believe the Christians and the Buddhists and everybody else's religion is based on fear, but not my religion. My religion that I'm wrapped up in, I absolutely believe in, I'm committed to, is not. It's based on God's word. I'm sure you've heard this.
I've heard that in the Mormon community for eons. Yeah.
Right. Everybody else is wrong except for my religion.
Yep.
And then he had an epiphany at a festival. We were at a Krishna festival celebrating some whatever. And he just had this epiphany and he was very angry about it. And I said, what's the matter? And he said, everything that's happening here, Karen, it's all based on fear. He said, not only is there hell, they have different planets of hell. Depending on your sin will depend on which planet you'll go to. And I just laughed. But he had that epiphany, that awakening. And like many people do when they move away from their religion, he totally divorced himself from it and didn't want to know about it ever again. And I said, you can still enjoy what the church has to offer, what the religion has to offer, the food, the festivals, the people, the celebration, the dressing up, the mantras, the meditations, the kirtan. There's a lot of kirtan here. You can still enjoy all that. Doesn't mean that you have to be committed to the dogma that's involved. So you don't have to throw it all away. But he did. He was so, I'm sure you've seen this, he was so upset that he was so deluded inside his idea that this was the Holy of Holies. And then he realized it's all based on fear. Like if you don't eat this, if you don't pray like this, if you don't do this, you're going to go to hell. You've got to follow the rules, otherwise you'll be punished. This is the fear that religion gives us, all religions. And, be good or you'll be judged. Be good or you'll be judged. And
yeah, and what I see in a lot of that, just in my communities, is when they get to that point where he was at, is they go two directions, and that is what we talked about earlier, the going inward, and learning that I am the connection, and that it's all through me. Which I want to talk about the fact that then how do I trust that? Because I have to learn to trust my own intuition and when I go inward. But then also too, they either go inward or they just eschew it all. It's all bad. It's all wrong. Even going in myself, how would I trust that? That was a manipulation and I thought it was real. And so they become completely atheist or agnostic and have no searching and no connection. And that always makes me feel bad because it's kind of, to me, different words for the same thing.
Well, the thing is that they are in this, as far as levels of consciousness that we explore and experience here on Earth, they are in that, moving from the 6 o'clock into the third quadrant. They've rejected their religion and they reject it outright. And now they're in that dark night of the soul, or that agnostic. It's like, I don't believe what I believed, but I don't know what to believe. I'm going to shop and buy more shoes and do all the things and eat the stuff I'm not supposed to eat. In the Hare Krishna religion, you don't eat mushrooms because mushrooms grow in the dark, and you don't eat chili because it agitates the mind, or a garlic or something. There's a whole lot of rules and regulations. And so they come out of their dogma and I'm going to do all the things I wasn't supposed to do because I don't know what to believe. And he was saying that in that agnostic place is a powerful place, because it's not like you've rejected it outright, which looks like you have. It's just that you're just in a state of transition. So when you say you feel bad for people who just throw the baby out with the bathwater, they can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, really. It can look like they can for a time, because they've experienced moving through that. Like you never did. You held on to a lot of your understandings based on what you learned through religion. What they called the Holy Spirit or the Holy Ghost. You identified as, I can speak to my Holy Spirit, my spirit guides, or my higher self, or my spiritual team. And so it might look like they reject it for a while, but then life will throw some more curveballs at them, and they'll start asking questions like, how do I overcome my pain, my physical, mental, emotional pain? Where do I look for healing? And they'll start seeking again. And they might reject religion, but they'll go to a conference or look at a podcast or read a book, and they'll start to seek it outside of the dogma of religion and move into that consciousness space, that new age or, conscious exploring space, and they'll start to explore. So there will be this time, and this is what Michael said, in that third quadrant where you reject and you go back into, I don't know what's true. I don't think I believe in anything. Yeah. So it is all part of that evolutionary process. Yeah.
Well, and let's look at that word. You just said a word that really stood out to me, believe. Like, do I have to believe in something? And so coming out of that training, if you will, like there's this, like, what do you believe? Like, I started going to drum circles and sound baths, and my husband was like, oh, that's your new church. And I was like, well, no, but in his framework, maybe it was. Because, was I buying into something and believing in something? I was just out to experience it all and find something that felt comfortable for me, but I wasn't really looking for a framework at all. But that word believe, how about it just is? I don't have to believe in it. It just becomes, or it is, right? Well, I don't know.
Because we're in a matrix of our creation, if you like, a movie, a script that we have written, because we're in a made-up world, some people call it the illusion, belief creates the illusion. So in this illusion, it is our beliefs that is creating our reality. So buying into belief, whether that belief limits you or expands you, is what we've come to do as sparks of consciousness, creating realities. Remember what I said, what did Grant say? Pearls of Wisdom last week on ATP. God does not create the heavens and the earth. God creates sparks of consciousness. So the Almighty, the omnipresence, that all that is, the supreme creator, whatever you want to call God, the infinite field of creative possibility. There's no he or she or identity saying this is right and this is wrong, and I'm going to create this and I'm going to create that. Garnet Schulhauser would say, a soul spins out from the source, like a spark of consciousness will spin out from the source. It'll be a holographic. It will contain the whole in the part in the whole, like a drop of water contains the whole matrix of water in the drop, but also belongs to the ocean. So it'll spin out. And then that spark of consciousness is doing the creating matrices, creating worlds and universes and identities and experiences. And so we're in this matrix of illusion of belief, where beliefs create our realities. So you have to believe in something. You have to believe that you're awake and breathing and female, and you're on a podcast with me talking to me.
To buy in. I got to have some kind of buy-in.
It's all belief. When my guide said to me, when I was waking up to my psychic abilities, I was massaging people and I started seeing all this phenomena. I was saying, am I making this up? Is this just my imagination? They kept saying yes, yes, yes. And I'm like, no, but tell me, is it real or, is it just me making it up? They said to me, you have to understand, Karen, you're making all of it up. You're making up that there's a person on your massage table and you're massaging them. You're making up that you're in a little house in Bondi and your front room is your massage.
Like, how did you take that? How did you process?
I understood. I'd read the Conversation with God books talking about you're the creator of your reality. I started to understand it. And then they were giving me the experience of understanding it. And as I'm asking questions about what's happening in my life, they were referring back to the information that I have absorbed through a book and said, that is my truth, that is my belief, but I'm not operating as that is my truth. I'm just agreeing that that's my truth, but I'm not operating like that. So they were giving me the experience of operating the truth that I had read in the books before podcast shows, the truth that I had known and felt. And they're saying you have to understand you're making all of it up. When you get that you are the creator, and that's that moving in that third quadrant, that's that moving out of the seeking, the dark night of the soul, the agnostic, moving into bringing it all back to I'm the me as the connection to the all, being the creator. So it's not just my ego personality, what I want to be thinner, I want to be richer, I want to be healthier. It's not the ego personality's desires, but the soul's desires. Why am I experiencing this illness, this death in my family, this, this hurricane, this flood? What is it that the soul is wanting to learn, to know? And so you understand that you're creating it from different levels of consciousness and you're connecting. For me, when I was seeking, I was always asking, I want to know what the soul wants. I want to know what the soul, because so people would come to me in sessions and they would tell me what the ego wants. I want to be this, I want to be that, I want a boyfriend. I told you about another person that had an interesting vocation, and you said, oh, did she feel guilty about that vocation? I said, no, she was asking the same questions everybody else about money and relationships, really, about money and relationships. Like, how do I make more money? Well, what is this good investment? Shall I stay with this bloke, this guy? Is he the right person? There's another guy that I like. That's what we ask about.
We're all the same.
We're all the same. And so that's the I. And so there's the I, what the I wants. But in the circumstances, so Michael Tamora's having a heart attack. He's lying outside I can't remember the fast food joint, on a patch of grass. It's got dog wee and poo all over it. And he knows he's dying, and he's thinking, what is the soul wanting from this experience? Like, what's the reason my soul has created this experience? There's another experience that I'm learning from in this illusion of reality where I'm experiencing a heart attack and dying. And he found for him that it was fear. He thought, because his greatest desire was to teach. And he spoke about that many times. If I'm going to be here on earth, I'm going to teach as much as I can. And he did right up until the end.
He sure did.
Going to make me cry.
He's still teaching.
And so his fear was, if I'm that incapacitated through this heart attack, that I can no longer teach, I have a fear around that. And so he realized that I think that was one of the fifth or fourth, I think he had 7 or 8 near-death experiences during his life. That was number 5, I think, or 4. I can't remember. I have to ask Raphael. Oh, no, I don't. I can ask you. Thank you. Because he's here, obviously.
I love him.
He says number 4. He's laughing the whole time. He's here talking to me the whole time. Number 4. Yeah, he was tweaking some fears inside him, based on his desire to want to teach. And he did for a long time have a throat problem. When I first met Michael, he could hardly talk.
I remember, yeah.
Remember? Again, looking at, I've had this terrible thing happen to my throat, but I'm still going to teach, even if you can't understand me. I mean, with JFK, what is it? Robert Kennedy Jr., same deal, right? He's had that terrible problem with his throat, hasn't stopped him talking and getting his message out there. And now he's, make America healthy again. It's hard to listen to him, but it just doesn't stop him. Right. It's like, how much can we dent the ego that will stop us? We were speaking on one of the Inner Sanctum, getting old and getting sick. The actor that just died, he addressed this, that went viral. The guy that was in Dawson's Creek.
Yeah. Oh, if you hadn't, James Vanderbeek.
Thank you. And he was saying how I identified myself. I used to identify myself as an actor, and then I was a husband, and I felt better about that because I was, in it with somebody else and supporting someone. And then I was a father, and I felt really good about myself. And now I'm helping and supporting others. And then when I got sick with cancer, now I'm none of those things. I'm a skinny, sick person in a bed that can't provide for my family, can't hug my children, can't kiss my wife. I'm just this skinny, sick thing in a bed. Who am I if this is who I am? So this was his soul's desire to explore himself as consciousness and not the identities in the trappings of the physical world. Identify myself as fat or thin or female or male or gender or not gender or trans or, or rich or poor or black or white. We're not any of those things. These are just the roles we're playing. We are the consciousness within. And James said, with all of this, I'm still worthy of love, and so are you. That was his dying message. Oh, I'm going to cry again.
So beautiful. So beautiful.
You talk, because I'm going to cry. It was beautiful.
What do I want to say? Yeah, well, and it's all those identities as well. He's still worthy of love. We're all still worthy of love because we are love. That's what we are made of, created from. That is the essence of our soul. It's not this random thing. It is created from unconditional love. It is love. And I'm not out. I really need to work on out seeking love and the validation I'd get from having a loving partner, because I already am love. And so would that person. And so is James Vanderbeek and everybody on the street.
And that message that he left went uber viral. I can't tell you how many people sent it to me. Look. It's like, yeah, I've seen it a dozen times. And I just loved that everyone wanted to share that message. So he just thought that he was speaking to his little fan group that loved him on his Instagram page, or his family even. I'm just going to speak to this little group of people. But when he leaves the planet, now he's speaking to millions of people. Do you think that wasn't a plan of his soul? Like, I'm going to die, and then my message is really going to be spread around the world, and this will be my ministry, my teaching, my contribution to this world, to remind people that we are not the trappings of identity and ego, that we are love and worthy of love no matter who we are. And we spoke about this again with Michael, when we're sick and ugly and fat and old, and can we still love ourselves unconditionally? Or do we just spend our whole time? And this hits home for me. I'm sure it does for you too, because as women, we're endlessly criticizing ourselves as being overweight, like you and I talk about often. Can we still love ourselves unconditionally when we're not the idea of what is perfection or what is beauty or what is supposed to be, like youthful or healthy or thin? Can we still maintain unconditional? And this is, again, the experience the soul gives us. And I had an epiphany with Michael on the show, and I said, oh, now I understand aging. And I realized that, the earth experience is we have these very short lives. We age. Yeah. We get sick and die. But other experiences throughout the cosmos, other galactic beings can live for like 500 years, never age. So they're not giving themselves that experience. So why aren't they aging and living for hundreds of years? Because they've already mastered the unconditional love stuff. We haven't, right? So we're still mastering the unconditional love stuff. So stuff's happening to the identity of who we think we are as the body. I am the body, and it's getting old and it's getting sick and it's getting fat. And can we still love it unconditionally, regardless of what we think we should look like? And that's that lesson in unconditional love. Can we love others unconditionally? You're a different religion, you have different beliefs, you're an atheist, you're not awake. Can I still love you unconditionally when you don't believe as I do? And that's the lesson to earth to experience, which a lot of other experiences in other dimensions on other planets have moved through already. So that's this earth experience coming out of, well, we've explored a lot of 1, 2, and 3,
Yeah.
But most of the earth is tied up in religion and seeing God as a authority outside themselves that they have to bend to and follow the rules in order to be loved. In order to be loved, I can't be loved unconditionally. I have to do it right because I can't eat mushrooms and I've got to pray on Sundays and I've got to do this.
Or I've got to eat shrooms or I'm never going to understand consciousness. There's so many. Okay, so I'm thinking about James Van Der Beek. Now, he was not like a very well-known
I knew him. I watched Dawson's Creek when I was young.
But he wasn't somebody that was like A-list. Like if he was put in a movie, that movie wouldn't, make billions worldwide because he wasn't that well known. But how beautiful. And to me, that's a testament of where our worldwide consciousness level is that goes viral. That beautiful message goes viral to all over. And was bigger than most people were like, I don't even know who this guy is and what a beautiful message. Oh yeah, I do remember that show now, kind of a thing. I just think that's incredible. And it's the reminder of, the unconditional love that I am. Well, so are you. And do I get to show you that you are that as well? So that you remember. And it's a sharing like that, not so much, hey, if you do Reiki, then you're going to get to know that you're unconditional love. No, let's find the way that makes it so, which I love Reiki, by the way, but I'm just saying all these different,
ways,
modalities and ways and leaders.
It's waking up to the love of who we are instead of seeking it. Like he came to the conclusion as somebody, who was a difference maker. He thought he would make a difference with acting. He could make a difference to his family. And when he's lying in a bed, skinny and sick and dying, he's not contributing to anyone. This is what he thought. He's only receiving and not contributing. Can I still love myself and feel unconditional love when I'm not making a difference, not helping anybody, only needing help and not contributing? I think that was his big dilemma, and he came to the conclusion he can.
Well, and the truth is, and I remember I've grown up with this, but I still see it and hear it even in the spiritual communities. If the message reaches only one, it's that one that it makes.
But sharing, I mean, this is why I say to people, you've got something, you're living through, share it. Like by sharing his dilemma and his epiphany has made such a difference. So he's lying in a bed dying and just getting on that Instagram live or whatever live he was on when he did that little talk to the camera that went viral. Yeah, just like that, just sharing his experience made such a difference. Yeah. But anyway, we're running out of time. I want to know, we've had no comments today. It's the first show I've ever done with absolutely no comments.
And I wonder if it's a technical issue or if
I don't know.
If what, I don't know.
Yes, we haven't got it.
We do have some viewers. It does show that we have some viewers.
We have some viewers, but not even Heidi, who said hello from Boulder, Colorado, which she says every show. We miss you.
And Shirley always steps in.
Like all the regulars. I don't know where you are. But anyway, hopefully you'll listen to the recording. I'd love to know what level of consciousness you feel you are, what quadrant, and what stage within the quadrants. Like, are you 1, 2, 3, 4? When Michael was talking, I was thinking, am I in 4? No, I'm still in 3. Am I in 4? I hit 4 sometimes, and then I moved back to 3.
Oh, look, somebody's commented. Hello, Christine H. Hello.
Your first and last comment, because we've run out of time. Did you want to play? Did we want to plug the expo? Neil
can I play
Yeah, Neil asked me to showcase some of the teachers from the expo. And they haven't got back to me, so I haven't actually booked anyone in for the shows yet. But I did say I'd plug it. So yeah, play it.
I'm going to play the trailer for the New Living Expo that's in 2 months. If I can get it to go right. Okay, because this is my first time sharing. And I believe I did it right.
The world is changing faster than ever before. And within this evolution, a new consciousness is rising. At the New Living Expo, thousands gather to expand consciousness, explore new conscious technologies, ancient wisdom, and the future of human potential. Immerse yourself in 3 days of heart-expanding wisdom and mind-binding awareness, with over 90 speakers sharing tools to awaken your highest potential. 125 exhibitors, 3,000 attendees, awakened souls unite in one powerful weekend of learning, healing, and connection. Experience transformation, connection, and the next chapter of human evolution. It is time for humanity to awaken. Join us at newlivingexpo.com.
It had a video that came out up at the top of it.
I know, at the very end.
Okay. Thank you all for listening. We've run out of time. You've been listening to Elevate on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. I wanted to talk about Michael Chong is coming up on The Outer Realms with Michelle DeRoche. And there's an open mic UFO Undercover is happening straight after this on the United Public Radio Network. Open mic, bring your own topic and your wisdom. So it's, with Joe. I think Joe's hosting that. And and Samuel. I love Samuel. The Thiover Prophecy is going to talk about Thiover Prophecy. So that's coming up on the United Public Radio Network.
Straight after. My favorite.
Straight after us. And thanks for the 2 people who commented, and big love to all of you. And catch you next time. Let us know what you want us to talk about on Elevate. We're happy to talk about the topics, or if you want to get more into the levels of consciousness and where you think you are, let us know. Big love. Leave a comment under the videos. Bye for now.